Recording. Okay, so going from bottom to top again in the majors. Um, Phew. Oh yeah. I'll just say this for the video's sake, but the miners had a hiccup with the PR. In case you guys didn't see that yet, but Voltorbs was rated really low when we did the discussion earlier today. They were last, and the calculation messed up, and they're actually what, seventh or ninth?
Seventh. Yeah.
So they had a pretty drastic jump once that was fixed. Um, and we kind of talked about that a little bit in the video. We're just like, their team's pretty good, and they seem like they had a thought process, pretty thorough thought process behind what they drafted. Um, so some starting notes maybe for the whole PR for the majors is that the variance was like everybody hovered like mid-teens pretty much. There were a couple
Super
teams
interesting.
that were below 10, but it seems like the general opinion was sporadic and over the place, all over the place for the majors. And so just to say that, to say like the teams were all pretty competitive and a lot of people had a lot of different thoughts about what they thought was good, I guess. So, um, but Cincinnati, so they're ranked 16th, but they drafted Roaring Moon, Galarian Slowking, Garchomp, Volcanion. Their team looks insane. Like if you're
Yeah,
looking
it's
at,
pretty
so I
pretty
was like,
scary.
I was asking because we had the mistake in the sheet earlier. I'm like, did this also? Did we? Because I don't know if this one messed up too, but we checked it and the majors is correct. But um, yeah, this. I mean, anytime you see things like Chansey, things like Garchomp, um, I've got a history with Lucario. I think Magnezone's always good. This team
Yeah.
is just full of things that are really useful.
hmm
Um, I don't know. Why do you think it was ranked so low? Um,
Um. So it has a lot of pieces of a Sun team, but no Sun setter.
hmm. What do you think's
I mean,
big
you
for
could do
Sun other than
manual
Roaring
Sun.
Moon?
So Roaring Moon, Brew Bonnet, Volcanion, um, maybe Go Go. I don't know if it gets anything there, but mostly those three are really good at abusing Sun.
Hmm.
Um, and then I think I was a little bit more hesitant because there's not a crazy good defensive wall. I mean, Volcanion's pretty bulky, but
I thought I ranked this team pretty either middle of the pack or a lot higher than 16th. So I was
yeah,
like, I think that all of these Pokemon, like looking at them individually, are solid. You
yeah,
know,
they're all good Pokemon for sure.
Magnezone, I think, got even better with Terastal. So like the fact that
hmm
it can magnet pull or volt switch out, it's got analytic, and now it has
hmm
a free strong special attack to cover whatever it's going to be blocked by.
hmm
I think I wanted Magnezone and got sniped, but
Yeah, I want to.
it's always I feel like that's a mon that everybody wants all the time. Um, Chansey is so annoying to deal with, and we were just talking about
hmm
that before the call or before the video started. Just a few matches with that. Quaquaval also seems really
hmm
interesting. I don't know a ton about it. I think that it probably feels like maybe like a Gyarados or like a Heracross,
Yeah,
but
kind of both mixed into one. Yeah.
mm, but yeah, the only weak thing I see here is the Go-Go, but even that probably has some usefulness.
hmm
Um, yeah.
One thing I notice is that this gen has a lot of fighting coverage and a lot of fighting types,
hmm
and half of his team is weak to fighting.
Hmm.
Yeah, he does have a couple ones. I know I harped on this a ton in the minor league one, but I'm gonna bring it up again. Earthquake runs through this team pretty hardcore. He has no immunities and 2 resists. So,
Yeah, no flying types.
um,
Does he
and then
have?
the speed tiers are a little like on Hunter's sheet that he put in. The speed tiers are 73
I don't
average.
think he has any hazard removal.
He has Quackable, and then I believe I could be wrong. Volcanion still gets default,
It does
but I'm
not.
not sure. It does not.
Yeah, when I was playing with it in the gym challenge
Mm-hmm.
thing, that was something that came up, and
Oh, interesting.
yeah,
But Quaquable for sure gets rapid spin.
that's
But
interesting. I
whether or
didn't
not you
realize.
want that to be your spinner is a little bit
I think
different.
it's sus to have that as the spinner,
Yeah.
but maybe it's good with the Moxie. Like you could probably
It's
find a way
it's
to
a
work it in.
very good like sweeper. Like it's Aqua Step Moxie is just disgusting.
What does Aqua Step do?
So Aqua Step is like Skeledirge's Torch Song, where every time you use it, you get a boost, but Aqua Step is a boost in speed.
So then it's kind of redundant with Rapid Spin then though. But
Right.
I mean
So,
it snowballs. It helps you still
but
probably.
yeah, so like the idea is you get people low, and then you come in with Quaquaval, Aqua Step, get a Moxie and the speed boost, and then you snowball from there, pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
I think this team has a lot of like good Pokemon in it.
for sure.
It probably will take a little bit of creativity to get around some of those shortcomings,
Mhm.
um, but it's definitely formidable and strong. We can probably move on.
Yeah.
Jersey City, um, the Sniping King. Zamazenta and Golden is just.
Hmm.
Did somebody in the minors also have both of those? Or no, I think Jacob has Golden
No,
right?
Jacob had Goldango, Zamazenta, and Grimmsnarl might have been on the same team. I
I
don't
don't
remember
know.
though.
But
But yeah,
so I mean,
he's got a pretty cool team.
yeah, strong. You know, it's something where it's like, yeah, you have a great physical tank, or defensive Pokemon with
Mm-hmm.
Zamazenta and special defensive with Blissey, but
Mm-hmm.
you always know which Pokemon's going to be taking what kinds of hits if they're
Mm-hmm.
brought, like so like it's something where you can maybe plan a little bit. The thing is this team has also a ton of like utility and snowball ability between Gyarados, Azumarill, and Grimmsnarl.
To
Um,
Titan belly drums.
yeah,
So
I don't know about Iron Leaves. Does that thing have any
I think it's
notable?
hit or miss. I mean, it's good, especially with like it gets booster energy and stuff like that. But um, I mean, just any mon that's quad weak to one of those common moves in the game is it's tough. It's tough to play with a typing like that. But it does have a good speed tier, really good attack, great coverage. So it can be used and used well. You just have to
Mm,
watch out for those Volt turn teams. If they just run a lot of Volt turn or can, then
mm,
you kind of just get swept. Like the Iron Leaves probably feels useless.
mm. I was looking at, things like Azumarill and Gyarados and even Grimmsnarl, I guess a little bit, but all Pokemon that really don't want to be burned. I think
Mm-hmm.
another thing is probably
A lot of
Zamazenta doesn't
physical
want to be burned.
attackers. Yeah, he has a
Um,
lot of physical attackers. He has one,
they're all
two,
really, really crazy though.
two physical attack or two special attackers. Really.
Golden Go gets it's immune to status or something. Gold, good as
Yeah,
gold.
it's immune to. Think of it, and Golden Go is probably immune to it. It's unreal. Its ability is nuts. We talked about it in the minor league
Hmm.
one a little bit. Immune to all status moves, and like it's immune to like getting its stats reduced moves, I think. So like
Okay,
parting shot doesn't work on it, defog doesn't work on it, those kind of things.
got it. Okay. Yeah. I wonder why they drafted Tinkatuff and Not a
I
different.
think at this point they needed a steel type. Well, no, I don't know. That is a good question. Tinkertuff is an interesting. I mean,
It could have been just uh, like I like this Pokemon. I'm just gonna add it to the
it very
roster.
much could have been. Tinkertuff is pretty cool,
There were a
but
decent amount of good 1 and 2 pointers.
hmm yeah,
Like
there really were.
it's crazy. This draft list is kind of is busted. That's I
Hmm
mean, um, I keep telling everybody this, but I think we could have reduced the spending limit by 10 and still have been fine.
hmm
But yeah, this team is crazy defensively and then has some really threatening offense as well. I think it's a little it it might lean on the side of predictable just because you know what all these sets are for the most part.
Yeah,
Like you
there's a
know
bit of flex play with Azumarill, um,
Gyarados too maybe a little bit, but
Gyarados as well. We saw what was it? Blake DeChico ran a specially defensive Gyarados or something, didn't he?
yeah,
And it looked pretty good.
Gyarados is one of those like offensive Pokemon that you can truly just give it
Yeah.
defensive investment and it still
Well, I mean, it's
does
base
damage.
95 HP, base 100 special defense. I mean, that's a solid special wall. Plus, it gets intimidate too. So, I mean, I see why Blake did it, and
He doesn't have a
it
ground
worked
type,
out
does
really
he?
well for him. He does not. No,
So
and
that's
which again, Volt turn strategies might just run through this team. But
yeah. Yeah, Volturn's probably really bad for him.
yeah, dealing with Volt turn would be pretty tough for this guy. But I believe in Max.
Yeah. This is a street fighting team. Um
That's facts.
New Haven. Man.
Bro,
Probably
this team got criminally underrated.
you think so?
I think. I think so, yeah. I think I had them middle of the pack, maybe a little bit above, and they just got sent to the shadow realm by everybody else, apparently. Good lord. I feel like this team is not that bad.
Yeah, I'm trying
Iron
to
Bundle, Sneasler,
Delphox I have some
Garganical,
experience
Fortress is nice, core
with
wise.
I feel like
He's got a good
when
team,
I was
man.
looking at his list, I'm kind of basing it on my own experiences using some of these Pokemon. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I remember I saw Delphox, I think one season, and I was like, that looks crazy because it gets so much type coverage. It's kind of
Mm-hmm.
fast, and then it's good special attacking.
Mm-hmm.
But there were so many times where I think it didn't do enough damage to be worth sending it in,
Mm-hmm.
for me at least. And then it's kind of frail. Sucker Punch I think takes it out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then things like Fortress always on paper looks amazing, and some people
Mm-hmm.
just rock with it, but
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it doesn't do everything you want it to do. Um,
Yeah. I feel
but
like the Garganical Fortress is a pretty solid, but again, kind of like what Hunter was talking earlier, this team does get run over by fighting, and fighting is a pretty common type.
mhm.
That core gets blasted by fighting.
What
He
was
has a
his average
couple.
speed?
His average speed is 92, which is real.
That's on the
That's
higher
actually
end.
pretty high. Yes, especially for an average. He's got some really fast mons. So like it's either so his mons are weird. So it's either under base 50 or over base 110.
Yeah,
So he has one that's base 85. But I mean, he's got some really, really fast mons on that team. A lot of good utility. I think he's lacking a fairy type, but that I don't think is a necessary. I don't think that's necessarily a killer because he doesn't.
He's
He
yeah,
pretty
does
weak
have
to
some
rocks.
resist. He's
pretty
pretty
weak to
weak to
rock.
rocks. Yeah, he's pretty weak to rocks.
Mm.
I believe Noivern gets defog. Fortress is rapid spinner. So,
Sneasler at least resists rock,
mm-hmm.
but
So is Garganical.
So I think he kind of minimizes some of the damage with that, but definitely, I mean, is tidy. You said tidy up, rapid
Tidy up does
spin,
as well. Yeah,
and then Noivern probably gets devog. I think you were saying right. And
I
then
think so. I'm not sure about that, but
yeah, I think this team has a lot of potential too. There's a lot of Pokemon on here that I'm just not as familiar with, I guess. And like I like that.
yeah,
I
I
like
believe
some
it
of the
does.
unconventional picks, like
Hmm.
Girafarig, Iron Bundle.
Yeah, I
But
mean he's got a lot of interesting mons, which is why I think
mhm.
it's definitely worth a shout.
So maybe part of
I
this
don't
is
think it
like
was that low.
the unknown a little bit,
Hmm.
but at the same time, I think there are some clear, must-haves that he'll probably bring each week. Like I feel like Sneasler could be easily brought 8 weeks in a row,
Hmm.
and
I
then
mean Iron Bundle too, but I guess the hard thing is to bring both of those is to they almost do the same thing. Granted, they're different sides of the spectrum in terms of physical special, but they almost do the exact same thing. They're gonna hit something really hard, probably be choiced of some sort, and U-turn or
which is
flip turn out.
totally can totally be useful, but
Yeah.
some coaches are going to be able to counter that better than others. I think
Hmm.
Elliott was wanting to come into this draft with going more the defensive route and got a lot of his picks taken. Like he was saying, I think the
Hmm.
first 3 rounds he got what he was wanting taken pretty much right before he got the chance to pick it, but um,
Hmm.
ended up getting the Garganical. You know what? I'm looking at this, and there are a lot of just fast, hard-hitting Pokemon, and not a ton
Hmm.
of bulk outside of Fortress, Garganical, maybe a Muck.
Yeah, Michael Lola's pretty good, specially, but yeah, let's look at his average stats. So average defensive stats are like 80s, base 80s.
Hmm.
So it's not great, but it's also, I mean, like you said, some of these are still pretty good. Like Noivern's good support. Garganical is probably one of the most annoying mons in the meta right now. Um,
Yeah.
Fortress is a pretty good one. Um, he doesn't have a huge glaring weakness to anything other than like Hunter said, rocks. So I mean, I think overall it's a pretty solid draft. I'm surprised to see him down this low,
Yeah.
like I said, but it seems like everybody else
That's
kind of
we're probably
agrees.
gonna be saying that for everybody. Um,
Yeah.
moving on to the King,
The
Snubbles.
king.
So the thing I think about this draft, I think was similar. I think this is kind of how I think a lot of us felt about like some of the coaches in the minors that just didn't have a ton of synergy. It feels
Hmm.
like, but maybe I'm missing something here too. All these Pokemon are crazy on their own, like
Yeah, they
individually.
are crazy.
But just how does this team get stitched together? Like, what does it want to do with each of the members,
I, th-
like, working together?
I think the biggest glaring weakness I see right off the bat is speed tiers. His average speed is 63.
Ooh.
So he has one mon over base 100 speed,
He does
which
have
is a
the.
little.
Oh, Spectre? Is that it?
Yeah, Spectre's his only mon that's above base 100.
Lando's not?
Now Lando T is base 91
Wow.
according to Hunter's numbers. I assume they're correct
Does
then.
Iron Hands with the
I think this team
Cork
does
Drive or
kind of
whatever?
really, which is probably what he's drafted for a little bit. This kind of does Trick Room pretty well, I think.
But does he only have a couple? I think Hat and
He's got Hat, and
Farigiraf,
I would
right?
assume Fergarath
I think Mimikyu might get it,
instead. I don't know.
but yeah, I mean, I think this could work. Like, I think
Hmm.
I've had a little bit of experience. Like, I think in season 2 I ran a couple Trick Room teams, and it feels nice to have like Lando and Spectrier when you're not in Trick Room to kind
Hmm.
of put on the pressure, and then after you've done, you can punch a hole with Trick Room early on, and
Yeah.
then use them to kind of sweep up the rest.
Yeah. I
Um,
think when I was looking at this team, I kind of looked at it and was like, dang, this is a very, very bulky team.
Dendozo, Avalug,
Lando T,
Skeledirge.
Skeledirge, Iron Hands, Hack, Dondozo,
What is Arboliva's stats?
Hisui, Avalug. Arboliva is like almost Hatterene, but just grass type. It's very similar.
It sets up, oh, grassy terrain too.
Yeah, and it gets harvest, so it can run those
Oh,
subseed
wow.
sets
Yeah,
and stuff like
this
that.
is a good core. This is a very unconventional but good core because Dendozo for water, Skeledirge, Arboliva.
Water, fire, grass.
Then you
Yeah.
have the fairy. Yeah, his defensive. I think his defensive core is actually pretty underrated.
Yeah, I think I pretty much said the same thing when I was ranking him. It's just more so whether or
Mm.
not he can make it work offensively.
Avalug, I'm
I think
assuming
he's a
gets
good pick.
rapid spin. So,
It should, yeah.
and then they've got
He's got magic bounce on hat to keep things off.
Lando. Does Lando get
Lando
defog?
does not get defog.
Yeah, I mean,
So
Uh, Iron Hands is always something I think. Like he's got some priority here. Mimikyu can take a hit and then,
yeah.
gets the Shadow Sneak and other things. Yeah, I think there's good poke here with some of those Pokemon, the Trick Room
Mhm.
potential, the defensive core, and then late game sweep potential. I think this is actually a
Mhm.
pretty solid team.
Yeah.
Um,
I agree.
it's just a little hidden, I think, the
Mhm.
the yeah, the connection, but
Mhm.
anything else? I mean, who else do we have on the call right now? Is it still just Hunter and
Yeah,
is
I
Carlos
believe
in here?
so.
Oh, cool.
Carlos is in here, yes,
Yeah,
but I don't know if he's talking.
it's cool.
We can go to the
But
next one.
feel free to chime in, whoever.
Speaking of Hunter,
Yup.
Skip this team. It should be in last place.
So I love that we play week one, so we have the Urshifus square off. That's crazy.
That is really hype.
um, yeah, this is another team that's like just full of threats, and you can
yeah,
you
I
can see
mean,
a lot of
Jesus.
the like the openness for strategies to evolve from here.
Mhm.
Like I'm
Good
I'm
lord, yeah.
sneakily suspicious of the Indeedee pick very last. Like there must have been like a moment that you had where you were just like, that would be fun, and then I'm gonna pick up Indeedee M because that's just like you don't pick that up unless you have a plan for it. I feel like so that's Armor
We
Rouge.
got a couple plans.
Armor Rouge, maybe some things with Gengar because it covers the Sucker Punch potential, and then yeah, I don't ever want to see Ursaluna, Dragonite,
Mhm.
Gengar, Urshifu Single Strike. All those things are just like, feel like they're going to run you over.
Do you have a spinner, Hunter?
Toadscruel.
Yeah, Toadscruel.
Okay, yes, yeah. Because
Articuno
Dragonite
might get
doesn't get
defog.
defog, does it? The birds do not get defog right now.
Ooh. I don't know if Dragonite does. I'm assuming
Dragonite
it
might.
doesn't.
I think Dragonite does.
I'm not sure. I think it does, but I'm not sure.
Toadscruel's insane. What
Toadscruel is pretty cool.
what is the so I know
Dragonite doesn't.
Mycelium might it makes it's like the reverse of Prankster, right? It makes all of your non-damaging moves go last, I think.
But your thing ignores all abilities. So like it can technically like put to sleep Goldango and like Garganackle and stuff like that, from what I understand, right, Hunter?
Would it make grass Pokemon fall asleep too with Spore?
I don't think so.
I think it's just abilities.
Yeah, I
So
think
like,
it's just abilities.
It's
but
like Mold Breaker.
you can rocks through Magic Bounce.
Oh,
It's pretty nuts.
that's kind of wild.
Hmm. Does it get rocks? It gets
No,
spikes.
yeah, it gets both spikes. You can spikes through.
Yeah. But
Wow.
yeah, so it's a pretty cool wall,
Yeah, I thought
big ground
Toadscruel
type.
is really cool. I like
Hmm.
didn't have any plans of drafting it, but I looked at it, I think at some point just because I was like, why is this thing so popular? And it is really interesting. It's so
Hmm.
bizarre. It feels like a Pokemon that they added to like push the envelope with what competitive play looks like, and I think that it's a good thing. Um, Orthworm and Jolteon and some of these immunities kind of go crazy too.
Yeah, a lot of immunities, which is what I like. I think that's super interesting. Let me just count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 immunities throughout the whole team. So that's kind of nuts.
Yeah, it's a good team.
Yeah, for sure.
Articuno is, I think, been pretty popular in our league so far.
Mm-hmm.
So that was probably a great value pick at the end there. Yeah, I just think Ursulina, Dragonite, Gengar, just I I don't know how that that's gonna go for me. So,
Yeah, that's a lot of threats in one team. Not gonna lie, but I guess the positive is he can't bring them all, right?
huh?
So he can't bring them all.
He totally
So,
could. Totally could. What are you talking about?
but he's got way more than 6, dude.
Yeah. I mean, it's not likely, you know what I'm saying? Like this team is definitely full of like combinations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think this is another one though where it's probably kind of hidden like immediately what the thought process is, but you know, if you take a second to like kind of look at each Pokemon and see what they have to offer, like there's a ton of doors to open probably with that. But
I want to say that the thought process was I got sniped the first 3 rounds.
oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yep, such as the majors draft normally. Yeah, I think another thing too is like there is a lot of doors that you could probably jump through and strategies to employ with some of these Pokemon, but at the same time, there's probably a point of diminishing returns or like a trade-off where you've given yourself a ton of versatility maybe, but you're not streamlined enough anymore. And I think I tend to fall into that pit trap a little bit as well, and that might be something that might happen or might not happen for this roster, but ton of threats that are scary. So, um, yeah. Did you want to say anything, Hunter, about your team, or do you want to leave it there?
There's one Suicune in the draft pool, and I didn't get it,
Oh
and
yeah,
this is what happens.
that was a bummer. Speaking of, New York Yankees, freshly minted New York Yankees, Uga's new team.
The
Um,
boys,
drafted Walking Wake Torkoal,
the fire team.
Slitherwing. Yes, Steam's cool. Steam's crazy. Hisui and Samurott and Lilligant. Um, Lilligant's way stronger than I thought it was. I was kind of practicing, I think, with because Carlos drafted it for the Invitational, and I was
Mm-hmm.
putting some teams together early on when we're kind of working through what Showdown looks like. And Lilligant's crazy. It hits so hard and it gets hustle. That's the thing is it's like it gets hustle, so it's like
But I mean, you could also just run it with Victory Dance
right.
or
Oh, Victory Dance
Chlorophyll
increases
if it's
accuracy.
chlorophyll. Victory Dance is Quiver Dance but physical.
Hmm,
So it boosts instead of special attack, special defense, it's defense and attack.
insanity.
So yeah, it's insane.
Super
Um,
strong. Sharpness on
but
Samurott.
yeah,
It gets the
really
dual
strong.
sharpness proc, and then it drops
Mhm.
spikes, ceaseless edge or whatever.
Yeah, the one of the two mons in the whole thing that have moves that are, I mean, have zero drawbacks.
Here's
Oh, you
another.
switched into a 4 times resist. Here's a layer of spikes for you.
Jeez, yeah. This is another team that like he seems to continuously draft Cresselia.
Yeah.
Feels like a safety blanket for him, probably.
Hmm.
But super annoying.
Yeah, I agree.
Wonder if that's
Uh,
maybe one of the drawbacks here is I don't know if the defensive strategy or the defensive
Mhm.
like whatever structure is super established here.
Yeah. I'm interested to see if there's going to be a quick draw, quick claw strategy here. I don't know why he took
Hmm.
Slowbro Galler.
Is Galarian Slowbro still pretty bulky?
It's not that bulky. It's more offensive than it is. It's base 95, defense 70 special.
Hmm. I mean,
So
it could still take a few hits probably. The typing's not bad.
the typing's pretty good, but it's just an interesting pick, I guess.
Yeah, I
Very
think
slow.
that's a smart pick. I feel like because I think it has the offensive potential and it's pretty unique and sits in a niche that could
Hmm.
be useful. But at the same time, I think it seems like it's pretty defensively bulky still. And it does get Regenerator. So I think that that's a mom that could easily pivot each week depending on what you want to use it for.
Yeah,
It's a good
sure.
pickup. Is there any typing disadvantages here?
See.
There's no flying resist and 2 4 times weaknesses.
Yeah, that's a problem. But who are his four times? Slither and Lily.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Flying isn't super common, but
yeah. That's
No,
definitely
everything's
something to look
common.
out for. Fairy, I think, is his bigger problem.
I think pivoting is probably going to be tough for this team.
Fairy's a huge problem for this team.
Oh, you're right. You're right, it is.
Was at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Pokemon are weak to Fairy with 2 resists.
Yeah,
So it's not ideal. But I mean, and he also doesn't have like
doesn't have a
yeah,
ground type, so
yeah.
there's no blocking
But
Volt Switch.
well, Palmont has Volt Absorb, so
Hmm. Well,
it could,
you know that that's the only one.
yeah,
So I
it
think
could. But Iron Fist is typically better, I feel like. But I mean, if he doesn't have a electric immunity, then probably gonna get brought a pretty decent amount.
what's the average speed here? I feel like it's kind of low, probably.
81. It is a little low, but he does have chlorophyll and three, four mons over base 100. They don't have a top tier, but he also gets photosynthesis boosts from Wake and Slitherwing, so those could be put in speed if you EV it right. So,
Hmm.
like if you run, I think it's if you run a Jolly nature on Wake, you might be able to get a speed boost instead of a special attack boost in the Sun. So you could run a like specs fast spec set. That's kind of what I've done with Roaring Moon in the past. If you run timid on it, since you get to attack drop from the nature, your speed beats your attack, and then you can get the proto boost from
Hmm.
into your speed rather than your attack. And you can just throw a choice band on it. But
Super cool team. Yeah, I can see it's like
for
definitely a
sure,
photosynthesis team. I mean, it has to
yeah,
probably be with Torkoal.
Sun is good. Is the summary of this?
Yeah,
Sun is good.
a lot of interesting Pokemon, like newer Pokemon.
Hmm.
Rotom Washington, making a return. Super fun to see them. They didn't draft Ditto. Like, I know I sniped
That
it,
was
but like at the
stunning.
same time, I was like, I expected it to go like third or fourth for them. So,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he didn't want Ditto. We were kind of
Oh,
talking a little bit during the draft.
did he have a reason, or just kind of just like tired of using it?
He didn't say.
Hmm.
Another big thing with his draft is he was trying to draft while doing work stuff, and
Hmm.
some of his picks he just kind of went with whatever
hmm.
his first thought was.
I feel like that's probably safe for Caton though. Like,
He did a pretty good
he
job
works
if that's
well
the
with what he's
case.
given.
Yeah.
I think Driftblim is also kind of a franchisee, like a like a
Yeah, he used
staple.
that in the BDSP season, didn't he?
I think so. That thing's cool. Um, yeah, I think this is like basically Rotom built a toolbox with this list, and
Mm.
there's a lot of openness for creativity here probably.
Lots of creativity, yeah.
So I think that it totally supports their play style, and
Some good setup sweepers, some good tanks. I had this team ranked pretty high, I believe.
I think I might have put them, yeah, in the top three.
I think I put him at seventh. So they were definitely higher than I had them here,
Hmm.
which is a surprise.
Yeah, Haxorus, Heracross, Cloyster. I wonder what they'll do with
Corviknight Rotom
Houndoom
Wash is a nightmare core.
with Mewtwo.
Yeah,
Oh,
him,
in
Gudra
his Gudra.
Hisui. Yeah.
Shoot. Yeah, Gudra,
It's no
Florges,
longer
Corviknight.
weak to freaking fairy. It's neutral.
That's
Gudra is.
crazy. Yeah, I think in BDSP2 they had a pretty bulky team because they drafted Tank Growth and
Hmm.
a few other things. And I think I've seen Caton perform well with a variety of different team archetypes. So I think here we're going to probably see more of the defensive, um, yeah, the defensive side. But um, yeah, this team is pretty solid, I think, all around.
Hmm.
And I think it's being piloted by an appropriate coach. So, Hunter, did you
Yep.
have any thoughts about his team or any insiders, more insiders?
Uh, not really. Cloister is another just really comfort pick for him. He
Hmm.
loves using it.
Got it. Yeah, I'll say this just for people that have not heard this yet, but I still love that he's never played a Pokemon game truly, but has such a knowledge of the game and probably just like smart, brain for it. But um, it's also cool to see some of these Pokemon return. I don't like that he is a Corviknight, man. I feel like that's just gonna and Mew. I feel like
Hmm.
that's like scary. Um,
Yeah.
moving on to Jim. Um, Jim's another coach I feel like just picks all of the really hard hitting Pokemon. They have a
Yeah, his
style.
team's crazy.
Um, Chi infamously was going to be drafted by New Haven to trade for Zamazenta and was drafted just before their turn. Um,
Hmm.
but always that thing you have to prepare for it every week. You probably play against Jim. Um,
Yeah, Chiyu's impossible to switch into. It's a nightmare. I was pretty glad that he didn't use it. He had it in the
Invitational.
tournament, and I literally was calking everything I could, like throwing assault vests on things, and there was nothing on my team that could take any resemblance of a specs overheat from Chiyu at any time. So it's just if he can get that thing in and get a little bit more comfortable with it, I think that team's just going to be really hard to beat.
I'm
He's
really
got a really good
interested
core.
in what he'll do with Overquill and Hisui and Decidueye. I
um, yeah, the Decidueye for sure. I think Overquill works really well with his core of Bronzong Slowking.
ooh.
Overquill kind of covers um, some things that, like Dark specifically, that he would have some issues with.
Hmm.
Plus, it gets Intimidate and stuff like that, I believe. So,
I'm seeing the potential for Grafai Sunny Days to power
yeah.
up Chi-Yu and
Hmm.
Breloom. Uh,
Yeah.
Regieleki I know is just a solid pickup. It's like I've talked about this in the minor draft too, but like the fast electric volt switcher that can get type coverage now with like Terra Blast and
Yeah, I think
s-
it's kind of underrated. I think people avoided it
I,
for
I don't know if it's
some reasons.
underrated. I think that people just it's kind of one lane and so people like it's a good pickup if you can, but like it's not one that
Mhm.
people gravitate towards immediately. It's not like your
Yeah,
ace, you know what I'm saying? But it's valued at the level of like your ace that you pick first, because it's the same value as Chiyu.
yeah,
Maybe I am undervaluing it, but I think it just doesn't feel like it's the same caliber.
yeah. I mean, its electric moves hit like a mega truck, and now it gets Terra Blast Ice, so
Yeah.
ground types can't switch into it, and yeah, I don't know. It's really hard. I mean, granted, you have to be an ice type now, but I think it's going to be really good, and I think Jim's pretty good at finding ways to make things work too. So,
Yeah. Jim's a pretty explosive coach, I think. So his play
hmm
style is probably going to reflect that a little bit.
he does have a slight issue with speed, I guess.
Ironically,
Chiyu, yeah, Chiyu and Regieleki are like the only ones that have really good speed. Grafai you can consider speed, but I mean it's got prankster anyway, so it's gonna outspeed you no matter what. So its speed tier doesn't really matter.
I like
But
Flamigo here too.
Flamigo's good, man.
Super
I think that's a really
scarfable.
fun, very, very scarfable. I ran that when Chi Yu was running around in OU for a while. I ran Scarf Flamigo, and it was my Chi Yu answer because Chis were never Scarf, and it was always Specs. And then you just come in, Scarf Close Combat. It helped with Grim Snarl because you could like Scarf Close Combat it, and Scrappy is nice for Dragapult, Close Combat.
Right.
I mean, it's a good pick, man. It's pretty pretty solid.
Scrappy's so good. I forget it blocks Intimidate. And then when
Blocks
I see it, I'm
Intimidate,
like, what?
removes fighting immunity
Yep.
from Ghost. So pretty good,
Craziness.
pretty good. You want to go to you?
Oh, oh yeah, it is me. Cool. Um, I'll let you take it off.
Um, yeah. So I think I had you probably around this spot. I think your team's it's pretty good overall. I don't think I think it's offensive threats. It's got a lot. You have a lot to use, which is nice. Got your ground immunities, electric immunities. You have your poison type, I believe.
I don't
You
think I have
do
a poison
not.
type.
You do not have a poison type. Um, but that's more of a nice to have than it is really a need if you know what you're doing. We've got a lot of interesting Pokemon that I think will be a lot of good utility, like Murkrow. Ditto is, I think, one of the most valuable things in draft. It's like really forces your hand. You have to prepare for the situation. Oh, but what if he brings Ditto? Um, that just puts you in a spot where you can't prep for a setup sweep or anything like that because you can't set up sweep until Ditto's dead, and then they're if they use it right, Ditto's never dead until the end. So it's a nightmare. Good regenerator core and Slowbro Torn, Rotom Heat for Wisp and stuff, Cleavor for the other most broken move in the game. At least this one can miss. I think Ceaseless Edge can miss too, actually, now that I think about it. But
Rocks
some
is better probably.
really good uh, utility. I mean, I think your team kind of has a little bit of everything. I think you didn't really get a top pick, which is probably the only thing that holds it back a little much. You went straight for the Rapid Strike, which is still a good pick, but it's not like a Chi damning Mon, you know what I mean?
Mm.
Or like a Iron Bundle or a Zamazenta Crown, you know what I mean? Where there's that really, really scary Mon, your team is just good. You know what I mean? It's just solid.
Yeah. I think it's
How
typically
did
how
you
I
feel
draft.
drafting it?
Yeah, I don't think that I felt like any one plan came together when I drafted, and I don't think that I necessarily got like any Pokemon I feel like are super weak other than Murkrow, but even that like can be useful. So um yeah,
Speed's a little bit of an issue, kinda. It's really weird because I say that, but also you
one
have
sec,
barely
guys.
anybody over base 100, but you have a lot of people really, really close. So you got Urshifu's really close, Tinkaton's close, Hydreigon's close, Leafeon and Murkrow are both close. Cleavor and Rotom Heat are both high 80s, so it's like,
Were you saying that they don't crack 100? I think I missed that
yeah,
because
it's not necessarily slow, but it's not necessarily fast either, which is interesting.
yeah, I think I like to sit in that area where like Scarf is always viable, I think. And so a lot of these Pokemon I think are probably in
Yeah,
that boat.
you
Like
could scarf pretty
Kleavor,
much anybody. It really leans towards your
yeah.
5 choice scarf team building
Oh,
style.
right, yeah. It's all six, bro. But I think Kleavor when I was at the ninth pick there, I was between that and then not Murkrow. I was between Kleavor, Zarude, and Crocodile because I wanted to grab another decent dark type.
Hmm.
But I was also looking at like something that would be scarfable and hit pretty hard because at that point I had like Hydreigon and Urshifu, but outside of that, the other Pokemon can do decent amount of damage, but aren't gonna like be super overwhelming. So
Hmm.
Kleavor was one that I was like, okay, maybe this sharpness can really come to clutch. It's a new Pokemon, like
Hmm.
it's in that Scarf territory. Um, and then like I think the thing that set me off was that Crocodile doesn't get Dragon Dance anymore.
Hmm.
So I would have probably drafted that if it did. So then from there, that kind of informed the next two picks. So Leafeon being the grass type that I was gonna grab with Zarude and Murkrow filling the dark type, Prankster
Yeah.
niche. So yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I think it's overall it's a pretty solid draft. I think in terms of type coverage from Hunter Sheet, rocks would be a problem for you. Um, and you really only have
I
one
don't think there'll be
spinner.
that much of an issue because I
You have one, two, three, four weak, 2 resists, and 1 quad resist. So
Rapid Strike resists. I think Quad resists, right?
now
And
Rapid
then
Strike is half. Your quad resist is treads.
what do you mean half?
So it's only 1 time resisted. Only fighting, I think, resists it.
Tinkaton resists.
Yeah. But
Slowbro
Tinkaton
resists.
treads. Slowbro does
I think water
not
resists rock.
resist. I don't think so.
You're probably right.
No.
According to Smogon, it doesn't.
Okay.
Yeah. I think fighting is where Urshifu Rapid Strike resists rock. But yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the only thing that I could be really nitpicky about.
Does Murkrow get defog? I don't know.
It does not. I looked at that. I just looked at that. It
Okay.
does not. I thought that would have been really cool if it got Prankster defog, but it does not.
Got it. Yeah. Um, guess we'll move on to Salem.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I think it's a pretty solid draft. I think a lot of these Pokemon have utility and are offensive.
Mm-hmm.
So except for Umbreon and
Yeah,
maybe
he's got a lot of
Lamora.
variation. It's
Screamtail's
interesting.
not that offensive, right? Or is it
Dreamtail
deceptively?
is it's not offensive really at all, but it's very, very good support.
Wish passing and
Wish
that kind of
passes, it
thing.
encores, it He Waves, it's got Perish Song, it's got Baton Pass, it's got a whole bunch of stuff that I really wanted and he stole from me. So that's fine.
Version's a great 1 point pickup. I think Blake had
Hmm.
that in the Invitational, and the fake out was doing like 40%. I was like,
Yeah.
wow, bro.
Um,
It'd be interesting
but
to see
yeah,
how he uses Zoroark. I think that it's cool that Blake and Johnny have Zoroark, and so
yeah,
like they play. I would say like Salem leans more on the Blake style of coaching,
I
so
agree.
I think it'd be cool to see that kind of come into action in a little bit. Um,
Hmm. In terms of their type weaknesses, I'm trying to look. Minor issues with ice,
hmm,
m- minor issues with fighting, and not like it. And the minor are like me being nitpicky, really.
yeah, deceptively defensive Pokemon too. I think
Hmm.
Caesar and Screamtail,
He's got a really good core about him. So.
Umbreon, Moltres is kind of. I mean, it'll be really defensive against certain types and then
Hmm.
not versus others, but
Yeah,
it's good when it's good.
facts.
And you have to count in that he can just have grassy terrain whenever.
Yeah.
Right. We also made this point in the minors though that Rillaboom does not get grassy glide in this setup either,
Huh?
which is pretty important.
Didn't know that. That's pretty
Yeah.
big.
It's still good to
So,
have that up for the residual for like Caesar and Screamtail, Moltres. Having like a built-in leftovers is good.
mhm.
So, yeah, I think this is a cool team. Tauros, we've been talking about it. Super, super threatening. All of them
Wait,
are.
hold on. Does it get grassy glide? That's not Dex monotype.
Check anything goes. But
I can't check it. But if it's Nat Dex, it does. But when it comes back, I believe it does not get grassy glide. So that's pretty huge for Rillaboom. That's a pretty big loss.
it still is pretty strong.
It
But
is very easily scarfable. Hits really hard, especially wood hammers and grassy terrain.
Moltres doesn't get defog anywhere. Does Sandy Shocks get rapid spin
No. So he just got Scizor and Glamora
for the
for hazard removal.
yeah, what's that move called?
Mortal Spin.
Yeah. I get that
And
confused
then,
with Ice Spinner.
yeah, I could see that.
Um, yeah, crazy, crazy Pokemon. Really, really annoying to deal with a lot of these. Actually, like super annoying.
Yeah, I
Umbreon,
agree.
Glamora, Screamtail, Caesar. Yeah, Persian. Persian just poking at you like, don't want that. Uh, okay, Nashville. Um, yeah, I mean, we've talked a little bit about it, Andy. I think that like you've kind of pointed out a few of, like defensively, you really were looking to get the Tyranitar, Zapdos, Toxapex trio going on. Um, and I think it's cool. I think it's refreshing and also just a good idea just to see Tyranitar not in
Hmm.
a sand setup and utilizing more of the the unnerve potential and actually using it as like a defensive or sorry offensive threat. Um,
Hmm.
it's just super solid. I always have felt like Tyranitar has been underused, which might be counterintuitive, but yeah, I think you've got a lot of strong staples. The fact that you've got Incarnate and Chien Pao and Lucha to me is just crazy. Um, we talked about the cryogonal pick a little bit. That's such a cool Pokemon. I think that fits in and covers some of your bases a little pretty well, and because it gets the rapid spin, freeze dry, it gets levitate.
Hmm.
So I think that that's like, yeah, I think you drafted pretty solidly. You have a lot of like conventional picks, and then some things that like kind of feel not out of place, but just like surprising to be here. Like the fact that you have the Hawlucha and the Cryogonal
Hmm.
and Tyranitar in this way. It's like you're taking a fresh spin on some of these like meta staples that have been around for a while.
Hmm.
So I think it's interesting. The context is interesting. Um, I was also looking at Bramblegast because
Hmm.
does it get rapid spin?
It does. It does get rapid
So
spin. That's
you've got
part
a
of the reason
lot
why
of
I picked
hazard removal, which is making me jealous. Bramblegast is cool. The Infiltrator, the
Wind
typing
Rider.
is good. Yeah, Wind Rider. Um, but it's just fast already, and it has like what 110 attack or something. So
Hmm.
Power Whips are going to go crazy. Does he get Shadow Sneak?
Yeah, it does. Yes.
He gets everything it needs. So
Yeah.
um, I'm more of an Armarouge fan, but Cerulege is also super super sick, and
Yeah. I
um,
kind of wanted, when I picked Ledge, I just wanted a strong physical attacker. And at this point, I was looking for like offensive fighting coverage because I didn't
mm,
really have a ton. And I was also like, oh, well, Ledge just got
mm,
fire coverage and
yeah,
flash fire sets and stuff like that. So you can run it in a couple different ways that I'm,
it covers bases for Chien-Pao and Tyranitar nicely because it will
yeah,
block Wisp and their
fighting immune.
weakness.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's actually a really solid trio kind of combination there. I like
Yeah.
that.
Looking at what's his or Hunter's dock. I do have a problem with rocks, is what I'm seeing now.
You have a
But
ton of
I do have a
removal.
decent amount of removal, which is why I'm not super worried about it. But that's definitely an issue. And then water as well. And I drafted around water being have known I had a water issue. I
Yeah.
was yeah, that's mainly why I got Toxapex
Do
is
we
because
play?
water
We
is
don't
a
play,
little
right?
stressful. We do not anymore.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say that Rapid Strike's gonna go crazy.
Bro, you would have been done for.
We'll see about that in the playoffs.
Bramble gas would have rolled through you.
Sure.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I'm overall pretty happy with my draft. I got a lot of good speed tier. Um, if you look at my draft and see me preaching about earthquake, that's exactly why. Because I
Mm-hmm.
purposefully drafted a lot of earthquake immunities and resists, trying to balance off my already issues with it. Yeah, I think like you said, Halucha is. I think I'm gonna use it in a way that most people don't typically use it, but because I'm gonna use it probably. I mean, it's nice to have the unburden ability, but I'm gonna use it mostly for mostly for support kind of things.
Cool. Yeah.
Gets a lot of good coverage
I
that
mean, the
route.
thing is that you can bring it in and use it for a lot of those cases, but still,
Hmm.
people don't. People are scared of it. So,
Hmm.
but yeah, really cool. I think a really cool team now that I'm looking at it for a second pass. Um, Here's where we move into sweaters, man. This is where we get to the cream of the crop of this league. Surprising to see Dayton and Morgram are not in the top three. Um, yeah, I think like looking at like Blake's list, I think I kind of had a little bit of insight. It seemed like he wasn't super satisfied with his draft, but there's a lot of like creative picks here, which is just like classic for him. Um, yeah, seeing the Zoroark come out first was exciting. Just to think about the possibilities um, with that. Um, things like the Azelf, um, like the Talonflame, even like the Komala are all things that are probably gonna like actually see usage and like be pushed to their limits. Um, I don't know if I'm still coming through. One sec. I think Andy messaging me. Um, yeah, I think that I gotta get the stream figured out real quick. Hunter, are you still in here?
Yeah.
Do you have anything you want to say about Blake's team? I gotta fix this real quick.
Okay. Personally, I think Clodsire is pretty sick. Looking at it, its stats aren't great, but the coverage is insane. Water absorb on a ground type is nuts.
Yeah.
And I think King Gambit gets underestimated a lot. The ability is pretty crazy. If you just save it until the end, and then if you get a sword stance up, sucker punches just kill
Do you even
anything
need the
that does
sword
resist.
stance at that point?
You kinda do.
Hmm.
The ability would be a lot better if it was just a +1 for each that died, but you only get like a 50% per.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I
you
feel
do
like
need the sword stance, but with it goes crazy.
yeah, I think with that too, it's like this pick is something that's like shown that Blake's kind of thinking about whittling down the opponent's team. I know him and I both really like the pivoting aspects of the meta, so I think that we'll probably see a decent amount of that between like Zoroark, um, Azelf, Galarian Zapdos, Doug Trio, and Clodsire. He's got like his chess pieces in order to kind of like for any situation force the opponent to switch and move how he wants them to, and then King
Yeah.
Gambit's there at the end. So yeah, this team's crazy. Hoopa Unbound is always super exciting to see. Um, the thing's wild. I was gonna draft Kamala too. So I think at the point in the draft we were at, where it was round 9, I was looking at Cleavor, and I think Blake hopped in the chat to kind of mention something to us, and we were kind of talking about Kamala a little bit while he was in there. It gets rapid spin, which is just so bizarre. It's kind of like, you know, purifying salt or whatever, and good as gold's, where because it has comatose, it doesn't get statused.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's like it also I think is fairly strong, and with rapid spin, it gets a boost enough that it starts to outspeed some like common things. So um, Kamal is really cool and was a great value pick. Um, I don't know much about Darkspun other than it is immune to fire and gets a defense boost.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting to see what he plans with that. Um, yeah, this
Husky
is.
Legion not being split by gender is pretty crazy.
Oh, is it like super different?
Yeah. So male is physical and female is special.
Offensive or defensive?
Yeah, offensive.
Okay, that's crazy. Um, I know it doesn't get last respects. I think it's banned, but
I think so.
I think it'll still be decent here. I don't think he has. Does Hoopa have Trick Room? Trying to think.
It used to. I don't know if it still does. Or
Maybe
maybe it did.
maybe the other form does. But yeah, this team's really cool. Um, yeah, I think I kind of mentioned this. I think it's very thought through and thorough. Um, and he's thought through his use cases and has a Pokemon for a variety of different like yeah,
Yeah.
variety of different like opponents. So
And
uh,
the Doug Trio just being on the team makes you
mhm,
always have to worry about what you're switching in.
yeah, and I think another thing too, we were kind of talking about this, I think, at one point too. I don't know what the interaction's like for Zoroark if it looks like Doug Trio and you go to switch. Like, I don't know what's gonna like if you'll be able to know it's Zoroark because it'll let you switch, or if it will say, I think I've seen before, and I think Blake said this too, that it says you might not be able to switch, but I don't know if then it commits you to clicking to switch, and then it may or may not let you. Whereas I think if it is truly Doug Trio, you'll be able to actually select a move. I don't know if I made sense there, but
Yeah.
like
No, that makes sense.
there's
I
a
think if it is Doug Trio, it just doesn't let you click it at all.
yeah, it'll tell
Yeah.
you can't switch because of Arena Trap. But I think if Zoroark is illusioned as Doug Trio, I think it gets a little bit more complicated. Um,
Yeah.
so, but that in and of itself is something that's gonna probably be really disorienting to play around, and um, even now that I'm looking at it too, there's probably a lot of opportunity to make Zoroark look like a number of Pokemon, including like Zapdos, where you could probably switch in Zoroark on something that's about to use Defog, and they'll think twice about it because they don't want to give Zapdos a boost and so forth. And yeah, craziness. This is
Yeah.
a cool
There's a
team.
lot of mind games with this team.
hmm Moving on to champ. Current reigning regular season champ, Dayton Dragonites. Um, they have Spathra and Great Tusk, which is already just wild. A couple of their staples that they really like with Klefki, Skuntank. Um, they drafted Low Kicks in the Invitational. I don't think they got a chance to let it shine though. Masquerain is a Pokemon I think is really good, but it can be tough to get the most out of. And I think Connor's really smart, so I think he'll find a way to work it in if it works, um, and make it look amazing. Um, they sniped me with Rotom. I wanted that earlier on, but yeah, seems crazy. Um, I feel like Arcanine got a lot better with the Terastal again, because it was already pretty good, but now you can make it resist rocks or, you know, make a defensive play and switch his typing and then counter or something and start to run away with the game a little bit. I feel like all these Pokemon are really whittly, and then he's got the Espathra and maybe even like the Mismagius and Baxcalibur to clean up.
Mm. I
Yeah,
think Espathra gets screens.
I think it does. Yeah.
He's got 2 months that can set up screens.
What is Great Tusk's shtick? Is it basically Donphan, but dark and fighting or something?
It's ground and fighting. It's just
Okay.
like a more offensive Donphan.
Is it faster too?
I'm not sure how fast Donphan is. Great Tusk is 87.
Okay.
Yes.
Which is very serviceable.
It does have 115 HP and 131 defense though,
Wow,
so it's pretty beefy.
insane. Along with Gastrodon and Skuntank, I mean,
He always makes Skuntank do crazy things.
yeah. I
He
mean,
just knows that one better than anyone else.
it's great because it blocks Prankster, and it also is a great poison type for fairies. Um, Klefki in his hands too. Super crazy.
Gastrodon can be a wall if you're not ready for it.
Yeah, I think Gastrodon. You know what? I was just thinking. I'm like, you could always just Terra grass, but that could be almost working towards his his favor because it will bait out you terroring. And I don't know if I'm making sense, but I feel like your immediate thing is like if I can't get through Gastron with something else, I want to Terra Grass, but then you're wasting your Terra potentially. So that's a Pokemon that kind of like is is always around that make you potentially have to expend resources and kind of restrict the opponent a little bit.
And outside of Gastrodon, he has pretty insane grass resist. So you're just
Yeah,
kind of throwing away your Terra.
yeah, if you did that. So he's got himself covered, so Gastrodon's going to be able to like really shine. Um, yeah, Miss Magius and low kicks are really cool. They're pretty low, but they're super strong in their physical and special respects. But yeah, it's a cool team. Baxcalibur, I have not seen how that fully goes yet, but it's a pseudo, so he's got a pseudo, an Uber, and a bunch of common Dayton Pokemon. So
Mm.
it feels like he's comfortable. Um, yeah, rated at third though, so or fourth. So it's interesting to see that the other teams were rated so highly. Moving on though to Seattle. Yeah, I don't know exactly what to make of this team other than like it it feels appropriate for Brian. I feel like Pokemon when I think of Brian, I think that he really rocks with like some of the defensive stat boosting Pokemon pretty well. Like so like Vaporeon, uh Annihilate and Heatran feel and even Sylveon feel like they are comfort picks for him and that he'll do really well with. I wanted Meowscarada really bad, um, but he got it first, obviously. Um, yeah, all of these Pokemon could be brought. There's not like any super outstanding blemishes in his roster. Spite Up's having sticky webs, you know, was a crazy value pickup, and I think it's decently like offensive too, right? Like it has some punch to it. Let me look at this actually.
It's got a 79 attack.
Oh, maybe I'm thinking of something else. Sticky webs. Oh, so it's pretty much just a utility Pokemon. But Brian is really great at like getting value out of Pokemon like this, I think. So
Oh, yeah, I've scrimmed against him a lot. He is really good at sending out Mons where you think you're safe, and then he just has a plan using
hmm
some random move, and it destroys you.
yeah, I think while I was playing against them in season 3, Mesprit was my demise, and then Elliot had a tough time with the Ninjask sub baton pass, giving Nidoking basically letting Nidoking run away with the game. So I
Mm.
think we're seeing some of that here, the potential for like Spite Ops and maybe Galgi, Vaporeon, Sylveon to support things like Annihilate and Meowscarada, Staraptor 2. Um, yeah, there's hazard removal in Donphan. Staraptor might get Defog. And Thundurus, I don't think it's Defog.
I don't think so.
Yeah. Heatran I had in monotype and it felt great all the time. You could do a number of different things with it. You can scarf it, you can specs it, you can obviously air balloon it, or variety of different things. That Pokemon hits like a truck too, so really good pick, I think as well.
You
Uh,
can trap with it.
yeah, with the what is it? The magma.
Magma Storm.
Mm-hmm.
Just
Yeah. Okay, so Dayton had Annihilate in the Invitational, and so when they gym challenged me, he had some. It was kind of an unlucky interaction, but it ended up being just really good. I think I went for the Will-O-Wisp, and he had Lumberry on it, and I think I then tried to like intimidate the Annihilate, and it has, I think, Defiant, right, or something like that. And so Annihilate just like blocks a ton of things that want to nerf it. But the only Pokemon I think I'm not super familiar with is gonna be like the Meowscarada or the Lycanroc midday, because that's not the one that gets Accelerock. I think it might get Tough Claws. Is that the one with Tough Claws? Look at this. Oh, No Guard. This is the one with No Guard. Midnight? No, he said midday. My fault.
still gets a Solrock.
Is this the right one? I thought. Oh, they do. They both get it. This thing's crazy. This was
Yeah,
really
really
rated
fragile, but just hits you really hard.
6 points. Oh man, this thing's awesome.
It it has to be sashed or it just dies.
Mm,
That's why.
I think Brian's capable of getting the most out of something like that, though.
For
Um,
sure.
Another big brain in the league is Log with Atlanta Dream Eaters, and I mean, those first three picks are wild. Moth, Valiant, and Greninja. They get Salamence, he has Sableye, he has Mesprit, he has Espeon, Quagsire. Berserker and Cloth are interesting. I don't know much about them. I know Serena can be pretty useful as well. Johnny had them in the Invitational and seemed to be like really good with Terra. So, man, I gotta look at these other two though. Cloth and Berserker. I,
Berserker's ability makes its steel moves just better.
mm, this gets
So
Regenerator. Cloth is crazy. Anger Shell at half or less HP. It gets a Shell Smash. Wait, does Shell Smash just... Does it have Shell Smash? Nah, but it probably doesn't need it. Off is sick. And it's 75 speed. I feel like Anger Shell definitely... Yeah, that's crazy. Um, yeah, you said it boosted Steel type moves. It's pretty slow. Gets Tough Claws as well. Say U-Turner, Stealth Rock, Fake Out. Gets Baton Pass too. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm used to seeing Log use more of the utility Pokemon defensive kind of route, and this feels like super offensive. Um, so I think that like this will be a really interesting and refreshing way to see him play.
sure.
Um,
And he still has Sableye to get some tricks on.
right, Espeon too, and Mesprit, but just the fact that now I know the Cloth gets like basically like a Shell Smash, Salamence, Greninja, Moth, Valiant, like this team is just steamroll city. So
Moss special attack is base 140.
yeah, it's insane. I feel like in my head I compare things to like Chandelure, and that's even beyond that. So super cool. It's grounded, poison type too. Fire poison type. It's decently, I think, fast. Iron
Yeah,
Moth.
110.
Whew. I probably made that noise like 100 times today. Um, Jeez. Does this get quiver dance? I don't think so. Toxic spikes. It looks cool too. Yeah, his team just looks is just really cool looking as well.
Even with having uh, 3 mons that are 50 or under, his average speed is still 84.
Yeah. It's insane. Cool draft. Excited to see how Log will play this. Um, all right. Moving into our number one. Um, Shinx is one of my favorite franchises to watch, and I really hope uh, this PR is reflective of their season moving forward too. I think it could be really fun to watch them. Um, Dayton won with the Rain team last season, so you know we'll see how this one goes. This could be really good. The fact that he has Palafin, Pelipper, and Barraskewda should be enough. I mean, Kilowattrel is also really good, probably in the Rain. Um, Amoonguss, Cyclizar, like Regenerator Core. And then even like defensively, like Tanglu, Pelipper, Gardevoir can be kind of bulky. Kabaraja. There's a lot going for DR's team, which is obviously why it's our number one. Um, and Rain just continues to be good. I think so. Yeah, go ahead.
Just leading Cyclizer with Shedtail puts you at a huge advantage for any of these mons that he wants to go crazy with.
I think Shedtail is banned.
What was it?
I think
Might be. I don't know.
it is. But Cyclizar still gets Regenerator and can Draco things. I think it gets Taunt, it gets Rapid Spin. It's still very useful. Um, Volcarona's there, to like hang out with the like Sun teams if there's like counter Sun brought. It also can just like clean up on its own at the end of a battle, or yeah, be dropped into like deal with something that the rest of his team can't. So it's super threatening always. Um, Something was interesting, I think, about Copper we talked about in the minors. I think it's just super bulky. It gets Whirlwind. That's crazy. But Mono Steel, I feel like, is great. Um, and that mixed in with like Gardevoir, Pelipper, and Amoonguss, it's just going to be a tough cookie to crack on top of them being able to just, you know, run trains around you with Palafin, Barraskewda, and the other offensive threats here. Yeah, this team is crazy. I feel
Looking
like
through his types, I don't even see anything where he seems especially weak.
he doesn't have any ground, or Tinglu's a ground type. So lightning, I mean Kilowattrel also probably has Volt Absorb now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, it does. And Amoonguss and Cyclizar are
Resist.
resist.
Yeah, it's wild. Yeah, this team's crazy. Shinx is gonna be going crazy. They're really smart too, so I think um, this could be Shinx this season. Um, yeah, I think. Do you have any last minute things you want to talk about? It's getting kind of late now. Might need
Nah,
to close this out. Cool. Yeah, Andy had to leave, I guess, to go um, help his girlfriend with something. But um, yeah, that'll do it for majors. Really exciting season. I'll say it again too, but all these teams were really interesting and really cool, and everything had some kind of you know value to them across the board. Um, and that's shown in just how high this variance is, and um, it's just wild. This draft list feels like every team has packed full of legendaries or wild statted Pokemon. So yeah, super stoked for the season ahead. I'm gonna stop the recording here. But good luck, everybody. See you on Monday.